Hello, everyone. Welcome. I think it's time to start. So let's start. Thanks for coming all. And just to give you a little bit of an introduction, my name is Reinoud, as you can see on the screen, and I work for Barracuda. But although I work for Barracuda, I don't want to make it a too commercial session. And my main purpose of this session is to give a little bit of education in regards of what XDR means, and also which types of XDR there are, and which things to take in consideration of choosing an XDR with a SOC. Maybe for your partners, maybe for your own company as an end customer. It all applies. So I think every vendor or every person you speak to in cybersecurity will say to you this. This is the #1 concern of my company, that I get ransomware, hijacked, whatever. And we as cybersecurity specialists, advisors, whatever, especially salespersons, tend to believe this, but it all depends on how important you find yourself as a company or organization. But it is definitely a risk. Who knows this movie? No-brainer. Yeah. And you will recognize in my presentation that I will try to keep it as simple as possible, and also using stories which you already have seen to understand how this is applying to your organization. And the thing is, as you see, Kevin is also scared here, and all these companies and business owners are also scared, like Kevin. Because of, we have these guys. And these guys are trying to get your money, your crown jewels, your data, and so on and so on. In case of Home Alone, they were very interested in the jewelry, cash, and so on and so on. And you think, where is he going with his story? But another example is, based on Home Alone, that Kevin, of course, tried to defend his house. He didn't want to get the bad guys in. And he tried to protect his front door, the windows. Basically, every entry needs to be protected. And that is also how we see, generally, our IT security. We need to protect our network. We need to protect our email, our identity, and so on and so on. So, Kevin also had a plan. And we know that plan. That was this plan. So, he tried to prevent getting them in via ice on the stairs. But also, when they went in, he tried to defend himself inside with the cans. And this was his plan. Does this look like a good plan for, for an organization? Maybe. But as you are monitoring your environment and you try to keep people out, you're the bad guys, even they are outside on your firewall, or they are inside and you try to detect them, that's not only enough. So who knows this story? This movie? Let Lost. Huh? This is In the Line of Fire. And if you have seen this movie, you also know that he uses a gun which can be disassembled and reassembled internally. So when he disassembled this thing, it was a lighting thing, and so on and so on. So why does this matter? Why is this important? Because of, who knows this guy? That's sad. That is sad. This is just a random business owner. And of course you don't know him. And that can also be you, or your boss, or a colleague, or a friend, or whatever. Actually, this is Sander Koppelmans. And maybe if you have heard that name, Sander Koppelmans, you also know that he was breached. He had an IT service provider which was helping him with his IT stuff. This is a story from a long time ago. And sorry, it is in Dutch, so I will explain it a little bit so you understand what's happening here. But Sander Koppelmans is now doing presentations for a lot of businesses and governments and so on to tell his story. And what was his story? His story was that he had a business of 50 employees and he thought everything was taken care of by his IT administrator. It turned out, of course, that that was not the case. And after he got breached, he thought, okay, I have a backup. So they tried to restore their backup. And you understand, it was not tested and he was failing to restore the backup. After 2 years, his accountant told him, Sander, we need to talk. I think it's a better decision to stop with your company. And you understand, he was very, very sad. And if you look at his face, he looks old, but he is not old. The thing is, after his accountant told him, hey, Sander, stop with your company, he started smoking again. He had sleepless nights. But also these 50 employees went away from his company already. The good people. So they were also out of job. And then he had also the same bank for his business as his private stuff. And after his wife left him in those 2 years, with his daughter, the accountant told him, or no, the bank told him, hey, you have a debt with me on your business. So sell your house, please. That is what can happen. So this is why it matters. How can it be solved? Similar to the night of the museum. Do we know this story? Do we know this story? Yes? Awesome. So when you know this story, you also know that Mr. McAllister is using a lighting to shine in a corner, but he doesn't see other things when he shines his light in a certain corner. And nowadays, we have video cameras in a museum and people chilling on a bench watching those cameras. Not like he did. And that is something we would like to avoid. So how can you do that? And although I'm working for Barracuda, this is just a general approach, how you can approach your XDR monitoring services. So if you have your crown jewels, you always need to go back to yourself basically and asking yourself what I am protecting. Is it really important? And which defense layers I have around those crown jewels. And we think that these five elements are always around a crown jewel. So these are the most important things. We think. And that really depends per company, of course. But for a lot of companies, this is the main factors. Then, because we have knowledge in those elements, like network security, email, and so on, we also need to recognize that those information can be siloed. And I had just a conversation here. There was one guy who is managing a lot of different customers on its own. So he has all the knowledge. But this is not typical for a normal organization that there is one guy having all the knowledge. So when you have different people working in different elements like an endpoint, network, and so on, you also have the risk that they are not talking to each other. But in case of a ransomware, they will definitely impact each other. This is what happens when you're being attacked or there's a ransomware or whatever. And to solve this, you need to bundle everything together. Bring all the information to one collector. Get some intelligence out of it. Get a few alerts, not all alerts, a few alerts. And that's it. And then you have a holistic view. And that is, in simple words, what an XDR is. So now you know what an XDR is. And this can be bought in many, many different ways. And this is also what I would like to explain. These type of XDRs there are. So the first one is a native one, which means it's a vendor-oriented XDR solution. The other one is an open XDR, which means they can integrate with several other vendors or solutions to collect all your data and have a few alerts. You also have a hybrid one, and I will explain in the detail what that means as a difference of the open XDR. But the hybrid one is more flexible than the open XDR. And then as last, you have a SIEM. And for those who are a little bit older, they know what a SIEM is. The newer guys probably not so. But it basically means I have a collector on all my syslog, and I would like to have a few alerts out of it. But you can integrate everything, because that is basically the basis of every XDR solution as well, a SIEM. So, some benefits. I thought maybe make it easier to read. What are the benefits, the pluses and the minuses? And one disclaimer here. The minuses doesn't mean that it is a minus for your organization, because it really depends on your type of organization if that's important or not. But what it means is that the more minuses, the more investments you need to make in regards of people to manage that solution for you. So, what are the differences? With a native XDR, because it's vendor orientated, they are way more specialized on those different products. But it also gives you less flexibility, because you do not have integrations with a Microsoft maybe, or you don't have not everyone has the same vendor for their firewall, email security, and so on and so on. So you would like to have it spread in a more flexible way. And you see also SOAR, ATR, TRP, playbooks, and so on and so on. And let me explain two important things here, a playbook in an XDR. So if you collect all your syslog, you get some knowledge about the products. For example, a syslog from Microsoft 365. Hey, this guy has logged in from that place with this device, and so on and so on. This is not really important. But if that guy is logging in from a suspicious country, or maybe from a different device what he normally uses, then it's maybe suspicious. So this is something I would like to know. And I would like to have it easily readable. So when it's easily readable, we are talking about a playbook. Because it gives me the knowledge of, hey, this user is logging in from, I don't know, whatever country, like China. He's using a different device than he normally uses. And also, an hour later, he logs in from the Netherlands. So basically impossible. This is something you would like easily to be read. That is what a playbook is. But also, you would like to have a knowledge of, okay, but what do I need to do next then to resolve it? And how can I prevent it in the future? That is what a runbook is being called. So you have also the knowledge of, okay, this is how I need to remediate it. These things in the native XDR are always focused on a vendor-oriented solution. So, okay, they have more expertise, but it's way less flexible. The other thing is, if you have an open XDR, you have way more integrations, but also not all the flexibility of having all the integrations. Why is that? Because as you can see, the SOAR, ATR, playbooks and runbooks are way more in the plus. It means that it will cost you a lot less investment from your own team to have these things arranged. Because with an open XDR, because you're focusing on a set of integrations, we have the knowledge from A to Z to help you with these detections. The other thing is, when you have a hybrid XDR, and you were in a presentation of a hybrid XDR, it gives you more flexibility because you can integrate everything, and they also have a certain knowledge, standard playbooks and runbooks in their SOC or in their XDR solution. But for those who are custom, you still need to create your own playbooks, run books. And that also means, like you see with the minus people, you have to invest in people to maintenance that solution, more than with an open XDR. Then as last, we have the SIEM. And you can understand if you have a SIEM only, it will require a lot of people to manage that solution. So that's definitely a minus if you're a smaller company. But if you're a bigger company, it's a plus because you have way more specialized customization on your own company, which can be beneficial. So now you know what the differences are. I thought it is also important to understand, okay, now we know an XDR. But what does then the SOC mean on an XDR? Because those are two separated topics, completely separated. They don't have anything to do with each other because an XDR solution is a technology. It's not a service, it's a technology you're buying. But a SOC is a services because these are actually really people or AI and so on and so on. But they are people behind your XDR solution to help you identify threats, to help you to remediate threats, but also if there's an incident that they help you with the incident response. So now you know this, it's also good to know how is a good SOC being built. And we think that is always in 5 levels. So a blue level is an analyst, and these guys are monitoring your environment, and when there is an alert, they investigate it, and they think it's a true positive, they will call you. The third level is endpoint, so they are specialized on endpoints. The fourth level is basically in between of the red teaming and the blue teaming. So they are updating and optimizing the threat analysis and also the runbooks and playbooks we have in our XDR solution. So that means that we have more knowledge and they are managing those improvements. And then as last, you also have the red team, and these guys are basically building the rules, but they are also actively threat hunting. So this is really important. If you are buying a SOC or you're investing in a SOC services, that you evaluate for yourself, how is this being built in their team? Because that will help you to decide if it's rather a mature SOC or not. And I think this is this is my last slide, but a really good slide. And I don't go into detail with all these text and so on because it's very confusing. But what is important from this slide is that if you are buying a SOC or investing in a SOC, that you evaluate that it is not only a service you're buying, but it is also impacting your processes in your organization. It also depends on the investments you make from people perspective. And as you can see here, we have different levels, level 1 to 5. And although we are saying we are the greatest and the best on level 5, what I hope that you get out of this presentation is that when you're evaluating a XDR solution and a SOC, that you also think about the people, the skills, the certifications, the processes and the technology within that SOC and also within the XDR solution. Because you can buy an XDR solution on level 1, and as you can see, and as you can see, it basically means that you have only a blue team analyst in business hours for that SOC maturity. Also, they maybe have a CompTIA Security Plus and Network Plus. And that can be a good first start, because it will probably also be much cheaper than the level 5. But now you know, and if you like, you can make a picture of it or whatever, but now you know how to evaluate a good XDR and SOC. And as I said, we have everything arranged, like an open XDR. So we are a level 5, but it doesn't mean that it is the perfect choice for you. So now you know. I would like to thank you, and if there are questions, feel free to ask.